Shalom, Kahala, Yahweh Shemi Awashai, Bahashim Kodash, double honors to the elder apostles and elder bishops of GMS, even the elders that came before them that taught us his truth. Shalom and salutations to all the brothers out pushing the word and truth and in sincerity, the hopeful elect tabernacle of David, to the Aqua that are listening and learning, being a pillar of rest, the 144,000 to 1/3, the hopeful elect of Israel, and the brother Yeshuan. Back with the World War III daily update. Shalom and salutations to you all. We're going to start right here at Joel 3 and 9. Proclaim ye this among the Gentiles. Prepare war, wake up the mighty men. Let all the men of war draw near. And right now, this is men and women. Let all the men and women of war draw near. Let them come up. All right. Jump down to 11. Assemble yourselves and come, all ye heathen, and gather yourselves together round about, that the cause thy mighty ones to come down, O Lord. So the troops are gathering. Okay, let's look at this in these different versions, if it will allow me to. Prepare for war, rouse the warriors. Let all the fighting men and women draw near. Let all your fighting men and women, okay, draw near. We have to amend that because of pronouns and can't even go into gender. Everybody, everybody, men, women, whatever you want to call yourself, right? So let's watch this. This is a majority report with Sam Setter, whatever his name is, 5 minutes ago, exposing the IDF's insane level of incompetence with this guy he's the new face on YouTube, I guess, Greg Stoker. I'm going to let it play. He's going to give us some information about the battlefield and the draft, really. So take it away, the majority report.
We are back, and we are joined again by Greg Stoker, former United States Army Ranger and geopolitical analyst, host of the Anti-Imperialist Colonial Outcast podcast. Greg, thanks so much for coming back on the show today.
Thanks for having me.
So, your background, I think people may be familiar, but for those who aren't, you enlisted right after high school. You served in the U.S. Army, as I mentioned. So, if you were to guess, or based on conversations you've had with people, what is the appetite within the U.S. Armed Services to go to war to back up Israel as they're committing genocide?
Well, unfortunately, a lot of people within the United States military don't see it as a genocide. The word terrorist has been weaponized for generations to basically be used as a mechanism of the great powers to condemn forms of violence that they don't approve of. So a lot of people are still drinking the Kool-Aid. However, the big question is the massive U.S. military-wide recruiting crisis that is ongoing. That's a real threat to United States capabilities going forward, especially fighting a near peer like China in the future. We have a whole situation going on with Taiwan. And there's also a massive retention crisis because there are people having moral qualms about what's happening in the Middle East, concerns about getting into another nebulous forever war in that region. So there's a retention crisis as well. And that's where experienced veterans with dozens of 5, 10, maybe 15 years of experience will not re-enlist to do another 5 years. They'll just get out. So there's a lot of national security ramifications and consequences for U.S. foreign policy right now backing Israel unconditionally.
Right. I mean, we know that there are some troops in the region, as we have mentioned. Biden has now come out publicly and basically told Israel not to attack Iran's nuclear sites, which, the idea that he even had to say that publicly is immensely concerning to me. I mean, I guess let's go and do a little bit of a recap of what we've seen over the past week and a half with Israel bombing the hell out of Lebanon, killing hundreds of people after they did 2 mass terrorist attacks, I would argue, with the pager explosion and the walkie-talkie explosion, sowing terror throughout Lebanon. It's basically a way to make people feel a lot of fear. Then they carpet bombed large areas outside of Beirut, and they killed hundreds of people Last night, they also bombed a residential building in apartment building in Beirut that had associations with Hezbollah.
This is the update, people.
But it was right next to a hospital, and there's a lot of just other massive ramifications from that. Over 1 million people from in Lebanon have already been displaced. That's, I guess, the broad understanding of what Israel's done in Lebanon. But like in terms of on the ground in southern Lebanon and what Hezbollah is dealing with, can you just break down these events since then?
Well, I mean, I could definitely talk about the tactical situation going forward, and I think that's the best way to describe the insanity of this operation. So, actually, just before now, for my show on Mint Press News later tonight, I interviewed a former Marine Corps drill instructor who worked with the IDF, and we were just talking about their complete lack of discipline, lack of situational awareness, lack of competence. They basically only take pride in their ability to get F-35s, JDAMs, and press a button. And if you look at white papers from U.S. Army war colleges from 2006, they're doing exactly what they did in 2006 now that led to their defeat. An over-reliance on bombing campaigns, a lack of ground maneuverability, an unwillingness to like get out of their vehicles and actually clear through terrain features. They just like, as we saw in Gaza, they like to stay buttoned up in their APCs and their tanks, not actually get out, which makes the tanks very vulnerable, but that's a different aspect. And then a massive information operations, or what we would in the civilian terms call a propaganda campaign, to portray a image of defeat for Hezbollah and an image of total victory for Israel. And so one of the main problems with their whole, like the pager attack was this massive intelligence coup. It was more of like a James Bond villain operation that James Bond in the movie would be trying to stop, because
Right.
if anybody but Israel did that, it would be considered a terrorist attack, especially if Hezbollah did the same thing, but
Exactly.
with IDF soldiers. So that's one form of hypocrisy. But they said their entire command structure has been taken out. Well, first of all, Hezbollah was born out of a guerrilla insurgent force movement to occupation. They are designed to function in cells, in networks that are independent of an overarching command structure. So they have different SOPs, standard operating procedures for what happens in certain areas when an invasion starts. Now, the terrain in southern Lebanon is mountainous. It's full of cover and concealment through like rocks, trees, and Hezbollah, even though they're degraded to some extent, I mean, they're still effective. They're not the only guerrilla force, armed group in southern Lebanon. It's like when people use the blanket term of Hamas in Gaza. There's also PIJ, the TFLP. It's not just Hezbollah that's going to be fighting against this incursion. So basically, what they have to do is they have to invade, conduct complex ground maneuvers that integrate combined arms. So tanks working with infantry, working with artillery, working with air assets. We've never seen them do this because they can't achieve it. So what on the first stage of the invasion, they set in commando teams or special operations teams to do reconnaissance raids against weapons caches, safe houses to collect intelligence. And then they sent in kind of like a spearhead of infantry and some armor. A couple of their incursions were pushed back. There's a lot of fog of war going on. But what you have to understand about the Hezbollah position, they've honeycombed their entire military infrastructure in tunnels throughout all of Lebanon. And so there's no breaking through the front lines of Hezbollah because they have defense in depth, which means like if they get pushed back from a position, they fall back to another position behind that. And there's like sniper's nests, there's HBIDs, which is house-borne IEDs. So that's basically a house that's booby-trapped to explode. So last night, an entire Israeli commando team went inside one of them, and they lost the entire squad. So yeah, they're taking sustained casualties. It's a lot gnarlier than what we're seeing right now, but they of course have a media blackout on all operations. We don't see how they could possibly come out of this on top. Their stated military objective is to roll Hezbollah up to the Litani River and create a buffer zone.
Yeah.
In order
but reoccupy southern Lebanon, which
Yeah.
Hezbollah already kicked them out of previously, and it was a hornet's nest at the time.
Yeah, and then in order to reoccupy and create a buffer zone, they would have to clear all of southern Lebanon, which they can't do because they couldn't clear Gaza. They couldn't defeat Hamas in Gaza. Hamas is still active there. They're continue to attrit or cause combat attrition to Israeli armor and infantry units there. They haven't gone away, and they're doing a third operation in West Bank, a multi-brigade action in West Bank called Operation Summer Camps, which is basically just a big bulldozer fiesta. And now they want to escalate against Iran. It's just completely insane. They're stretched thin and they're running out of ammunition.
I'm going to stop it right there. You want to watch the rest of this? It's really compelling. The Majority Report with Sam Setter. All right, and this guy, Greg Stokey, keep your eye on him because he knows enough to, give an informed opinion. All right. So, yeah. What's going on? Well, troops are being gathered. Let's get Joel 3 and let's get 2. Okay. The Most High is gathering the troops into the valley of Yehoshaphat. All right. Joel 3 and 2 in the NLT. I will gather the armies of the world. The I is the Most High. I, Yahweh Shem Yahshai, will gather the armies of the world into the valley of Yehoshaphat, or Jehoshaphat, which is the Middle East. There I will judge them for harming my people, my special possession, for scattering my people among the nations, and for dividing up my land. All right, so that's what we see. Continue to watch. We'll see you tomorrow with that. We hope the elect are edified. Your brother and few sisters, Shalom.